The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
You're listening to the Sports Scramble podcast, where four friends serve up a weekly plate of sports with a side of SEC bias. Now, here are your hosts, Chet, Jacob, Wade, and Tyler.
Let's go!
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to this week's episode of the Sports Scramble podcast. As always, I'm your host, Chet. I'm joined by Tyler and Wade, and we have rumors that Futch will be dropping in a few minutes, maybe, but we didn't want to wait on him because a few minutes to Futch might be 45. So maybe he'll join us for the end of the show. Who knows? But guys, how are y'all doing? It's Monday night, or not Monday night, Sunday night, draft night. How are y'all doing?
Yeah, doing pretty good. Not as much sports anymore, but we do have the MLB Draft, had some history going on, and I'm excited to get into some football content.
And I just got to say, this is the 1 week of the year or for the foreseeable future that we will not have live sports on starting Wednesday through Thursday. So, this is your sports entertainment for the week right here. So if you get bored on Wednesday, just play the show again, and there you go.
There's your marketing for the week.
Yeah, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel and watch either the full show or watch all of the segments cut up into smaller videos that Tyler likes to edit and put together. So there you go. Boom. And you can check out Wade's TikToks from the Home Run Derby over there at the Baton Rouge. Was it at Alex Box or was it at the Rougarou Stadium?
They did the All-Star game at the Alex Box Stadium, but they typically do play down the road at a public field. So that was cool to see him play on the big field. Look at that. 45 minutes later, not 45 minutes.
Futch, how you doing?
Futch. What's going on, guys?
We got a guest appearance, you can call it. But he's always a member of the Sports Scramble crew. How you doing? You're here. We haven't talked to you in a while.
I am here, yes. A lot of busy stuff, vacay, stuff like that. So, yeah.
No, totally understand. You're a college graduate now. Last time you were on the show, you were still in college. So that shows the growth you've made as a person. It's wonderful to have you back on.
You sound more educated already.
Yeah, look at him. He's already good. He's probably got his doctorate degree by this point. And he's all these big talks, and so we're happy to have you on. Wade, you mentioned the All-Star game. We had Futch join in as we were talking about it. What'd you think of it? Was it a cool little showing to see?
I think it's really cool that Baton Rouge does have a summer collegiate team, and I think that the more fans that show up, and if they could get a few of the LSU guys to stick around for the summer, maybe some of the in-state players from the other schools, I think it could definitely continue to grow. And I think it was really nice that they're able to do that event at LSU Stadium because it's a little bit easier to get to for, most of us baseball fans in Baton Rouge. We know how to get to the box. We're very acquainted with it. So I thought that was a good move. And who knows, maybe I'll go catch them play this week or another week, now that college baseball has slowed down and not going to be making any MLB games. So
no, yeah, I think I might have to make a trip to check out the Rougarou. And if I'm Jay Johnson, I'm going to try to steer my guys to go play for him during the summer, so you can keep a closer eye on them. But before, we talked enough about LSU baseball the past few weeks, national champions, as Wade's got the hat on. Let's talk about the MLB Draft happening right now. I don't have the live ticker. Let's see who's picking. But
Arizona.
I can keep us going. I can run a side screen.
So number one was as much discussion. We talked about it every week. Do you take Paul Skeens? Do you take Dylan Cruz? Some people said Wyatt Langford. To each their own. Or the high school guy. I can't remember his name, but he was drafted third. And he's Bryce Harper. Who is it?
Max Clark.
Yeah, Max Clark. He's Bryce Harper Jr. After watching his little interview that he did. Ultimately, the Pirates select Paul Skeens. Futch, since you haven't been on in a few weeks, do you like the pick?
Yeah, I do. I think that the pick, looking at the Pirates organization and the Pirates farm teams, the Pirates are up there as far as farm system goes, which is surprising considering their past. in the MLB. I think that it's a step in the right direction. They've made a big turnaround this year, and them getting the first overall pick, I think, just boosts them further into that next step for the organization. I think that for the Pirates, Paul Skeens brings experience. He also brings, MLB velo and as a young guy. I mean, high MLB velo. So I think that his experiences in college benefit the Pirates big time. I get it with the high school guys and stuff, in the MLB. Ultimately, a lot of them committed to play college baseball. So, it's kind of a give and take when it comes to high school kids. But, when you get to the college guys, it really is a fast moving process. So I don't expect Paul Skeens to spend very long in the farm system. I think he'll probably start out in Altoona. I think he'll probably play for the Altoona Curve for maybe a month. And then you'll see him probably go to AAA and spend a lot of time at AAA ball. I think they're probably going to try to figure out where he fits in the rotation in AAA. And ultimately, if the Pirates make the postseason, I think you might see Paul Skeens in October in the bullpen for the Pirates.
No, I agree with you. I think you throw him, let him get his feet wet, and maybe move him up to AAA, because as a pitcher, he's got the stuff. It's more facing the different batters he faced a lot of great batters this year. I mean, you look at some of the guys that were drafted in the top 10. I mean, of course, you would face Dylan Cruz in the fall, but you got Wyatt Langford, who he actually never faced. But, guys of that caliber that he faced throughout the SEC in the regular season. So it's still great hitters he's facing, but majors is just a whole nother ball game. You got to really be able to locate and get that swing and miss. You're not just going to blow it by. You're not going to blow a 98-mile-an-hour fastball by a major league hitter.
The part that shocked me the most is that I had no idea, but Paul Skeens' strikeout rate is at 45%.
Yeah,
that's crazy. I mean, that's wild.
Yeah, I think his average fastball was at 98 miles an hour, and they said he threw like 1,210 fastballs this season. I mean, you saw in Omaha in the game against Wake Forest, 40 of his pitches were fastballs, and they were averaging 99.6 miles an hour. I think he threw 30 over 100 miles an hour. It's insane, the velocity. It's just going to be a matter of battling guys and being able to locate in the big leagues. Tyler, if the Pirates are in the postseason, do you see him coming out of the bullpen?
I definitely think I could see him in the bullpen, but the Pirates won't be in the because the Cincinnati Reds are probably going to be overtaking them, and the Milwaukee Brewers will ultimately potentially win that division. So I don't know. I just think that if they do win it, of course, that, if you're in the playoffs, they would potentially be in the wild card spot. But the really main question I have about Paul Skeens, do we see him be a two-way player? Yeah, whatever. Paul Skeens be a two-way player. I've done a lot of talking the past 2 weeks, so sorry for that. But do we see Paul Skeens, do a little bit of both?
I think the door is open. I mean, ESPN sure would like it to transform that way, so there could be 2 Shohei Ohtanis. I think ESPN said they had, just for fun, they had a 2nd or 3rd round grade on him as a pure hitter, as a first baseman DH prospect. So the Pirates could go that route, but I think they made this pick because they wanted the surefire best pitching prospect in the last 5 years, and a guy that can help them win now. I mean, I think that it's not this season, but I think with a good rest of the summer and a good spring training, he's a guy that has a chance to crack the opening day roster next year. And if it isn't right at the start of the season, I think by this time next year, we'll see him in that black and yellow. So I think that it was definitely a win now move on the pitching side, but I don't think we'll see it be a two-way thing.
We got Jack in the chat, says, yo, what's up, Jack? Let us know if you think Paul Skeens was the right pick at number 1. Maybe he's a Florida fan. Who knows? 2nd overall pick, Dylan Cruz. I mean, we're all LSU fans. Futch 50-50. But he saw him play in person. I mean,
70-30.
Oh, I like it. 70-30. There you go. I don't know if that's 70 towards LSU or 70 against LSU.
To be determined. Okay.
We saw him play in person for 3 years. Arguably one of the best players to come through Baton Rouge. How long do you think he spends in the minors, Wade?
I think that by this time next year, we'll see him debut. So I think about right at a year. I think that they'll take it easy with him this summer. I think he'll probably start in high A or double A, Altoona, as Jacob said. And then I think that next year he'll start either in double A or triple A and work his way up around the All-Star break.
Oh, look, Jackson LSU fan, so he agrees with us. Paul Skeens was the right guy to be picked at number 1. So, yeah, I mean, Cruz, he's got that talent, but yeah, like you said, it's just kind of getting adjusted. And I mean, you see a bunch of guys, completely different sport, but you say like NFL guys that are supposed to be like next generational talent. It just takes them a minute to get adjusted. And I think baseball specifically with the
all about timing.
Exactly. And
it's not about talent. They're all talented.
Right. And I think one big thing is confidence and the mental game into it. And that's what I was going to get into with Max Clark once we get into him. But Tyler, Jacob, do you like Dylan Cruz at 2 going to the Nationals? Tyler, you texted me and said, well, he's not going to be winning a lot, but maybe they're using him as a building piece.
Yeah, it's definitely a face of the franchise piece. So, looking at the division, it's a very, very tough division. It just feels like the Atlanta Braves, with their young talent, they're going to be set up for 10 years. The Phillies, what they've been building on, and the New York Mets. It's been a little down. The Miami Marlins are just another team that has a lot of young talent. So it's definitely a tough division to be in, but I definitely love the pick for the Washington Nationals. Like I mentioned, they had a guy like Juan Soto and Turner a couple of years ago. They shipped him out. So I think that Dylan Cruz, he's a 5-tool player. He can do it all on the diamond. So this is a fantastic pick for the Nats.
I mean, you go Bryce Harper in center field, ship him off to Philly. Juan Soto center. Did Juan play center field? He played in the outfield.
He's a right fielder.
Yeah.
And Dylan might be a right fielder down the line as well.
I mean, they ship him off to San Diego and they bring in Dylan Cruz. So they're just cycling through guys that are going to be potential all-stars. Futch, you like to pick?
I do. I hate that Washington is that number 2 team. I mean, and I'm happy for Dylan Cruz, but at the same time, I'm like, with his talent, generational talent, it kind of stinks that you go to a team like Washington who's still trying to figure out their identity again. I mean, a couple of good years, and you lose your key pieces and ship off your picks, your best drafted guys of all time, and of course, kind of got turned away within that organization. I think that Dylan Cruz will be a good player for the Nationals. I don't think his future for the MLB is going to be with the Nationals. I see him being somewhere else. I mean, here's the thing. It kind of comes back closer to home with it, but if Dylan Cruz is definitely a guy you see in center field long term, where does he fit good with other organizations as well? Look at it long term. I think the best team that he fits with, as far as hitting wise goes, as far as position playing goes, is Houston. I think that the Astros could benefit from a center fielder because they really don't have a true center fielder. So, yeah,
I would love to see him in Houston.
I know you would.
I'm making another trip to Minute Maid.
Yeah.
Think about the only chance of him not debuting with Washington is if the Nationals call up the Angels and trade for Shohei Ohtani in like an hour,
right?
And he goes to LA. But yeah, I don't know if he's a national for life per se, but another guy that should get up quick. And it seems like these guys are now signing extensions at a young age, or they're getting traded at a young age, kind of like Juan Soto. So it's up to the Nationals to do it right this time. They let Bryce Harper slip away. They let Juan Soto slip away. Granted, with better teams around them at that point, I think that the Washington team that Cruz will debut with will probably be the worst out of those 3. So I am a little skeptical to see what they do as a franchise, but let's hope they don't let it happen 3 times in a row. But I think it is kind of poetic justice. I think Dylan Cruz reminds me a lot of Bryce Harper. They have a very similar batting stance. He wears number 3. Kind of has the hippie hair. So I think it's only right that he follows in his footsteps.
He's rocking the mullet. Might be one of the most popular guys besides Morgan Wallen to rock the mullet. You mentioned Bryce Harper. we won't talk all the. I mean, we'll be here forever if we're going through every pick. But let's round it out with the number 3 pick, Max Clark, coming out of high school to play center field as well to the Detroit Tigers. He better watch out because my guy on MLB The Show plays outfield for the Detroit Tigers, so it might be a while.
You just
before
got
he
sent
gets
down.
Sorry, bud.
But he was a guy that when I was watching the draft, ESPN was pumping the Bryce Harper comparison. You saw his swing look very similar. He's got the speed. I mean, he's got the confidence. That's no doubt about it. And I think as a young kid, you got to have almost a little bit of cockiness to think that you're better than everybody, and that's how you're going to move up. I mean, baseball is a huge mental game. So if you believe you can do it, then just go out. You got the skills, go out and perform. Do y'all like the Tigers taking a high schooler at number 3?
Yeah, I think he's very talented.
Tyler, you said you were surprised?
Yeah, I thought it was going to go all SEC players 1, 2, 3. But I'm surprised. I'm not surprised. Detroit has done this in the past, taking a chance on a high school player. So, you can't really go wrong in the top 3. Matt Clark was one of the best high school prospects. So I think that he's going to do really well, and it's not going to take long for him to be in the big leagues too.
I think a little different. I see guys get into systems. This is so much different than high school, and I mean, we really haven't seen a high school kid at all rise up the ranks that fast. To be honest, so I think that it's hard to say that we think that they could be playing on a big league roster in the next 2 years. I don't think it's realistic when it comes to those, especially you're taking a lot of
huge jump from high school to the majors.
Right.
I mean,
these dudes. I mean, you're seeing
4 or 5 years older than the guys you were facing in high school. For one, he's used to hitting off seniors and like sophomores on the mound, and now you got dudes that are 28 pumping like probably 103. Come on,
you got to look at it both sides. I get it; he's a really good player, and somebody was bound to pick him in the first round. But the thing is if you're a team picking a high school guy, especially number 3 overall, I think you take a huge risk. I mean, a massive risk by doing something like that. You really have to know what you're getting into and who you're getting, the ins and outs, every breath that they take in order to make sure that you made the right pick, because you can't get it back ultimately.
Right. And you also, you got to be on this kid like white on rice because he's 18 years old, just got thrown a bag. You got to make sure you don't do anything stupid and really jeopardize your chances there.
He's committed. He's committed to Vanderbilt, so
take that as you will.
Probably not a dummy.
Yeah. What's the rookie contract looks like? Over those
starts at like $8 million signing bonus and kind of works its way.
Well, I'm wondering
down.
like how long? Is 3-4 years?
It's not really a year thing. It's a service time thing since you're not going straight to the major leagues.
Right.
So you don't really have it's kind of like an annual renewal in the minor leagues. And then once you get to the pros, your service time starts and you're basically on a 6-year contract. So it's actually one of the longer rookie deals in sports. I think the NFL does 4 for first round picks. So they're just banking on these guys taking a while to develop. And
gotcha. Okay. I wasn't curious because the MLB draft confuses the heck out of me.
It does.
The slot picks.
It's one part of the game I really don't get.
I'm sure it'll come out later, but I believe the record was $7 or $8 million for the number 1 pick. And I'm looking on MLB.com. The approximate pick value for Paul Skeens was $9.7 million.
They definitely went over what they thought they were going to have to spend. It basically breaks down like you have.
Do they negotiate this with the player beforehand? They
can't. Well, the agents can, yes. So MLB is a little different from most of the sports, in the fact that they do the lottery. Well, actually, everybody does the lottery except for the NFL.
Right.
So that kind of prohibits tanking, but not really. I mean, Washington and Pittsburgh were 2 of the worst teams, undoubtedly. But then each team has a certain pool of money for the entire draft. So the idea is each pick has a number value associated with it, a certain cost, but that's just an estimate. So they can negotiate a little bit ahead of time and kind of get a feel for what the top player wants to get. So Dylan Cruz's camp was asking for $10 million. Now,
He got
Pittsburgh
9,
has
supposedly
a lot of needs, so they don't want to drop a third of their budget on one player. And a team like maybe the Nationals was just willing to say, you know what, he's worth that generational talent. We're going to overspend on Dylan and then maybe kind of lowball another college player or something. But if you can save money on that number 1 pick, maybe you can convince a guy to not come back for a senior year or not go to college and get 2 first-round picks kind of in a way.
Well, it confuses the heck out of me, and I'm glad you just broke it down. You got it. It's a negotiation game there. So we'll tune into the draft as it goes out. Jack said he would have picked Rhett Lauder.
I like that pick.
3.
I like that pick for Cincinnati. That's huge.
I like that he's on Cincinnati too because they've kind of become a project team of mine because I really like watching them play.
One of my favorite teams.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Cincinnati just added Rhett Lauder. They got Ellie De La Cruz, who was just – and I mean, if he would have been called up a little earlier, he's obviously playing in the All-Star game. Potentially the home run derby with the nukes that the kid's hitting. And that's kind of what's going to be my turning point away from the draft. Talk about some MLB baseball. This week, Ellie De La Cruz stole 2nd, 3rd, and home all in the same inning. The man Tyler and I actually were playing MLB The Show against 2 random kids, and they were using the Reds, and he stole 2nd, 3rd, and he attempted to steal home, but we got him out.
That's all that was happening in real life.
Exactly. So, but it's I mean, it's insane. I can't remember a player that was at this level of just athleticism, the speed, the height, and he plays third base. The dude hits
kind of like Fernando Tatis and Ronald Acuna in one body, which is saying a lot.
Yeah, it's and he just, I mean, when was he drafted?
So he was an international player, so they are not included in the draft, which is another kind of weird caveat to the draft.
Really interesting.
You just because you're the number 1 overall pick, and maybe this year's the only time in recent history that you could argue the number 1 overall pick is the best player coming into baseball next year. I mean, there's probably not an international prospect at that level, but any other year, it doesn't matter what some 18-year-old's doing in high school in Kansas. It matters what somebody's doing in the Dominican Republic and in Venezuela.
Yeah,
because they're playing pro ball since they're 12.
Yeah. You got to get the birth certificates for them to play on your travel teams.
They go to the academies, and it's a very competitive process because they have a separate pool of money for international guys, and I'm sure that it's not completely regulated like we see for the draft. But
so is it a draft for the international guys? Is that how that works?
I think it's
not really. They're just free agents. I mean, believe it or not, a lot of teams send a lot of scouts down there. Basically, they can do whatever they want. I mean, everybody's a free agent. As long as they declare that they want to pursue the MLB, and
which I'm sure all of them do.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where that's why they're so abundant, in farm teams and minor league baseball. Why there's so many foreign people playing, is they're able to do it, and believe it or not, I think that these teams actually do it for cheap too. On top of it.
Oh, yeah.
So I think they're saving a ton of money. But baseball's changing. And I said this a long time ago on the show, that I think baseball's changing because college is becoming very much priority in the MLB. And I think it should be like that. And I fully support bringing guys that have experience at the next level out of high school or anywhere else. I fully, back that they get an opportunity from college first. Mm-hmm. It just seems like they've been exposed a little more. We know who they are. We've seen them. And it's kind of like basketball. Think about NBA basketball. I mean, you don't see very many foreigners get taken. I mean, sure, you see a few, but it's not like they're lining the court every night. For a game, you see a lot of guys.
It's starting to shift that way, though.
Sure, it is.
But would it be more fun to see all the potential players in the draft pool, like have international prospects, have college prospects, have high school prospects, and see what the hierarchy is. I think that you would find that American high school prospects would be going to college a lot because they're already getting passed up by college players, and I think they would definitely get passed up by guys who have been going to baseball academies in foreign countries since they were in middle school.
Sure. Yeah, I think it would change
help
the
college
dynamics.
baseball a good bit.
Yeah. I think it would change a lot of things. I mean, of course, you would have those generational talents like I've been mentioning his name a bunch tonight, Bryce Harper, who would go number one, and that's someone you don't pass up. But then you got some of these guys who are on the fence, kind of like a Dylan Cruz 3 years ago. He's on the fence. Do I go to the draft? Do I go play college ball? I think that decision to go to college ball would be a lot more. I mean, the game's already interesting, but that would change a lot of things. You got a lot better players coming in that never would have actually gone to college. So, NIL is also changing, that kind of dynamic. You're getting some guys that you could get a couple $100,000 in the draft, or you could sign a couple $100,000 NIL deal that you're getting every year. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Tyler, would you have drafted Ellie De La Cruz number one if he was eligible for the draft?
Without question. There's really no doubt about it. Next question.
Who do you like better?
Unless you really wanted to
Ronald Acuna or Ellie De La Cruz?
Ellie's
that'd be
What about injury prone Acuna?
Okay,
would you like an injury from Acuna? If so, yes.
Put him in bubble wrap.
I wouldn't have Ellie De La Cruz stealing all three bases every time he goes up there, else he's going to be on that path too.
Yeah, I think I figured it out. He had that weird thing on the bottom of his bat, and
the axe handle bat.
Yeah, and that was the.
They
has he hit a home run since then?
It's only 20. No, they checked it and it was fine, and then he hit a home run the next at bat.
Did he?
Yeah,
he ended up taking it off because they said it. Wasn't allowed.
Well, then you hit it without the counterweight or whatever it was.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, who was that against?
He hit it 450 feet.
That was Washington against the Nationals. Yeah,
and then the next series, I guess he was just taking his anger out on the Brewers and did his thing.
Well, I think we'll definitely see him in the Home Run Derby come next year. We got All-Star Week. Home Run Derby is tomorrow night. Monday night. We've got the brackets released. You've got Luis Robert Jr. at the number 1 seed taking on Adley Rushman in the 8. Pete Alonso, the polar bear, going for his 3rd win in the 2 seed, taking on Julio Rodriguez, number 7. Number 3 seed Mookie Betts versus number 6 Vladdy Daddy Guerrero Jr. And number 4 Adolis Garcia versus Randy Arizona. Tyler, you got to help me out with this one.
Rosarena.
Come on,
Rosarena.
you made the same.
I know. I said the same thing last week. Picks. Jacob, who you got winning?
I won't go with Mr. Rice-A-Roni. No, I
just like the queen again.
I think my pick is Adolis Garcia.
I can't say that word. I wanted to pick him.
That guy hits absolute bombs. He's just a power hitter, and power hitters reign supreme in this. It doesn't matter how consistent you are at the plate. I just think that he definitely hits the ball the furthest and will definitely garner the most attention out of the fans. So I think it'll be fun. My only thing with the Home Run Derby, is that you can't have the same guys year after year after year playing in the Home Run Derby.
I don't love that.
Pete Alonso, you are cut off. You need to go help your team because
once you
you guys suck. You guys suck.
Someone else had their fun.
Yeah, so I get having Julio Rodriguez in it because he's the hometown guy. I get it. So I just think that there should be an opportunity for somebody else. I kind of like Adley Rushman in there only because he's young and he's not going to win, but I would be surprised if he gets more than 5 homers. But I think it's a good opportunity for young guys to experience it. It's just a fun social thing.
Exactly. They're all having a party down on the field. Wade, who are you picking?
All right, I'll go with a different angle here. I'm going to go with the hometown guy, Julio Rodriguez. I think that
Wow, didn't even show, I guess.
He was a late ad, and I think we all want Pete Alonso to just take a year off from this thing. I don't really like how they did the pairings, though. I mean, I I think that you got to put some respect on Alonso and match him up against like Adley Rushman or something, and then Mookie Betts goes up against Vlad Guerrero. Like I would pick that as a final if it was allowed, but I can't pick either one of them now that they have to play each other first round. So
Yeah.
I think he almost won it last year. Has the home crowd going. If he can get past the first round, I think that he has a pretty smooth path.
Okay, Tyler, who you got?
Well, since we all want to be different here on the show, I'm going to pick from last week and go with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. You know, it's a very favorable matchup against Mookie Betts. If he gets a goal, he can hit absolute nukes. And this at T-Mobile Park, it can be Nuke City. So, going to go with Vlad Daddy.
Vladdy Daddy, I like it. That was going to be my pick. Well, since I don't know how to say his last name, I'm going with Rice-A-Roni.
Rosarena.
Going with Mr. Randy. I have no idea. To be honest with you, I don't watch a lot of pro baseball, but I'm picking Rice-A-Roni.
He's probably the underdog out of all.
Let's see.
He wanted to do it first. He was the first one to sign up, even before the polar bear. So,
okay.
All I know is that Tommy Tanks will be in the home run derby in the next 5 years.
Yeah, against Ellie De La Cruz and maybe Ronald will come back.
So let's we got one more little baseball stat to get into before we hit the All-Star break. Detroit Tigers yesterday throw a combined no-hitter against the Blue Jays. You'll love to see the solo no-hitter, but it's just as impressive to do a combined because you got three guys coming in that can't let up a hit, and our boy Alex Lang finished it off from LSU. So congratulations to the Tigers. Cool to see. Sucks for the Blue Jays, but it is what it is.
That's a tough team to no hit.
That's a rough one. To go back to the previews, I picked the Blue Jays to win this division. They're stinking it up.
Well, let's talk about the fact that 4 out of the 5 teams that are in the AL East are technically in the top 8. Like at the end of the day,
one needs to go to the Central. Is all I got to say.
Very tough division.
Boston needs to go to the Central.
We'll see how it all shapes up.
That makes no sense, Wade. They're further east than New York.
Because they would win it. I was trying to give you a bone. Okay, fine. Tampa Bay can go to the AL Central.
Okay, yeah. Well, no, put them in the
East.
Yeah,
they're
in the East.
Maybe move to the NL. I don't know. It's fine. The divisions.
Any of those teams would win the AL Central.
Move Tampa to the NL. Get out of here.
We'll restructure the MLB on our off time. We'll call up Manfred. He was getting a lot of booze tonight. I don't know if y'all caught that.
Glad he did.
ESPN was normally, for the NFL draft, they just ignore the booze to the commissioner. But tonight they were like, "Oh yeah, they don't seem to like the commissioner tonight. They're booing him left and right."
Bro, it's like, every pick. I'm watching it right now. The Brewers are making their selection, and this man's getting booed on the 18th pick of the draft. Like they're consistently booing this guy.
I
mean,
Brock Wilken.
Oh, he was
from Wake Forest.
For Wake Forest.
Wow,
got a lot of power. Just disappeared in the games against LSU.
I might see a lot of nukes in Biloxi.
That is true.
Yeah,
that'll be a fun one to watch.
That's a good point right there. There we go.
Yeah, get to see him.
Might be our next Shucker that we get to root on.
Yes, yeah. They almost booed Ken Griffey Jr. because they were busy booing Manfred, and as soon as Griffey stepped on the stage, wait, we like him. So, all right, well, let's shift gears from MLB over to fantasy football. We have our fantasy football expert, Tyler. We all need to pay attention to this week's slideshow with the wide receivers because that is going to be who you want to take in the draft. It's going to define your team. So, Tyler, if you're ready, I'll throw the slideshow up for you.
All right, Wade, here's your first overall pick, potentially number 1 overall wide receiver. It should be no surprise. Justin, there's really nothing that I need to say about this man. Every season, he's just very consistent. I know they drafted Jordan Addison, the wide receiver out of USC. Should that really, tie into this? Not really. I don't think that Jordan Addison, he's probably going to be the wide receiver too, alongside KJ Osborne. So there's not really anything that needs to be said about this man. He is by far not only going to be the number 1 overall fantasy wide receiver, but also the number 1 overall fantasy receiver. So don't even sweat it. Last year, Jonathan Taylor, I was so high on him, but Justin Jefferson, he's an eligible, so go with him at pick number 1. Going on to pick number 2, if you can go along and scroll on. I have
Well, I'm
number
trying
2.
to, but it won't let me.
Having some
Hold on here.
technical
We're having some technical difficulties.
Okay.
Wait,
Well,
while we're trying to figure out the slideshow, are you taking Jefferson at number 1?
It depends on the slot value. If he's asking for too much, I might go with a lower slot and take Jamar. I'm just kidding. I don't know. In all likelihood, yes. I would say Justin Jefferson to me is the consensus number 1 wide receiver, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Jamar take a really big leap this year. I don't think he was fully healthy, and I think that the Bengals offense has the potential to be way better than what the Vikings can present. But just far as like total targets and control, I agree, Tyler. I mean, it's hard to beat Jefferson.
All right,
Yeah,
going number 2, another LSU boy here.
Yeah, another LSU man. I had this guy on my team last year. Now there was some injury concerns last year about Jamar Chase, a couple of games. But if you just look at his stats from last year, Joe Burrow has that college connection with him. He's, there's a lot of talent on the Cincinnati Bengals roster, especially at the wide receiver. You have T. Higgins. He can also be a top 20 wide receiver. You also have Tyler Boyd, who's one of the best receiver threes in all the NFL. So you're going to see a fully healthy Jamar Chase season. So if you're at pick number 2 or pick, I would definitely feel confident in taking Jamar Chase. I think he's going to be right up there with his teammate in Justin Jefferson.
And I have the number 2 pick in our draft, and
Yes, you do.
I am bouncing between Jamar Chase or maybe taking a guy like Austin Eckler or CMC. I haven't made that decision yet. I'll have to do some more research. And I like how you added the half PPR points for Cameron, since he likes to play half PPR leagues. But everybody else plays full PPR, so just double it from there.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure because I know that there's a lot of formats. You have half PPR, just standard.
Half PPR is the king. It makes
you also
sense.
have PPR. So, all right, next one is Cooper Kupp. This one was another player that also dealt with injuries and also injury to his quarterback, Matthew Stafford. Pretty much missed the whole entire 2022 season, and after that, it was just a quarterback carousel for Cooper Kupp. But whenever he's on the field, he is an elite wide receiver. I think that if he has a fully healthy season, he could be right there along with, the number 1, number 2 receivers that I had on this list, Jamar Chase, also Justin Jefferson. Cooper Kupp, the times that he's been healthy, just look back 2 years ago when he had the most insane season at the wide receiver position. So as long as Matthew Stafford is healthy, I would definitely feel confident in taking Cooper Kupp. There always is going to be that injury concerns. I do think that's not really concerns about Cooper Kupp. I expect him to be fully healthy. It's just a matter of, is Matthew Stafford going to be the same quarterback like he was at injury? Because it was a very severe injury, so you just don't know what you're going to get out of him. But I do feel confident with Cooper Kupp. There's not really –
we might have lost.
But outside of that, there's not going to be really many wide receivers that are going to be taking his target share. So Cooper Kupp is going to be the main man in Los Angeles.
So if something does happen with Stafford and he's not supposed to return at the beginning of the season, do you still like Kupp at the 3 wide receiver?
I definitely think that there would be some knock. Matthew Stafford, he does have that experience. He has the arm talents. I would probably move out of the top 5, I would have to say, if Matthew Stafford isn't a full go for this season, because the connection is just so real between them. We saw when both of them were healthy in that season that he just broke many records in the fantasy. So, yeah, I would definitely keep an eye on Matthew Stafford's injury, more of Cooper Kupp when looking at Kupp this offseason.
Okay. Number 4. This one
Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, I gave a lot of hype about Bijan Robinson last week. Tyreek Hill is about the same as on the wide receiver position. I am really all in on this Miami Dolphins. Now, the main concern has always been about Tua's, injury concern. It's very similar to what Matthew Stafford has been going in. But Tyreek Hill, even without Tua, has really been a consistent, fantasy wide receiver. The talk going from Kansas City to Miami, was he going to be the same fantasy wide receiver? And he showed it even with a quarterback carousel of, Teddy Bridgewater, we saw as well. So, he has an elite level speed. He's one of the fastest, wide receivers. He also, Jalen Waddle is too. So there looking at fantasy managers, look at Tyreek Hill, they always have Jalen Waddle on their mind because Jalen Waddle, isn't as good as Tyreek Hill, but he definitely has a lot of upside that he can bring to the table. So I'm just Tyreek Hill. There is some issues off the field too. There's definitely concerns with that, but I'm definitely all Tyreek Hill going into the season. So I would definitely, think about him in the middle of the first round. But if he's there, like pick 8, pick 9, and if you don't take him, you look like a complete fool not taking Tyreek Hill.
Tyler calling everybody out if you pass on Tyreek Hill in the first round. Remember that. Remember that.
Might as well do it again.
I believe he ended last year's fantasy season as the number 1 wide receiver. So let's see if he can repeat it. Number
5, Stephon Diggs. I feel like this guy has always been a top 5 fantasy wide receiver in my rankings. This has been one of his favorite targets in the past seasons. Looking at his stats, that's just absurd. 11 touchdowns. It feels like every time that the Buffalo Bills are in the red zone, he's getting a touchdown. So I just think that he's one of the more consistent wide receivers, and that's what you want whenever you have a first-round draft pick. Somebody who can be consistent but also provide a lot of upside. And I think that Diggs provides that, especially with the connection that he has with Allen and, the absolute, ball hawk that he is. He has a lot of the target share. The Gabe Davis, I'm not really worried about him. He's had a couple of games that really caught fantasy managers' eyes. So I just don't really think that Gabe Davis is that. I think that Stephon Diggs is for sure and by far the wide receiver 1 on this team. So I would definitely feel confident in picking Diggs heading into the fantasy season as well. So that's my top 5 receivers. Next week, we'll get into the quarterbacks.
I like it. I mean, you got to get prepared early. The fantasy football season is coming up amongst us. I know I'm starting to watch some videos trying to get my guys going because I've got the number 2 pick since Wade beat me in the toilet bowl last year to take that number 1 pick.
I like that. I like that rule.
That's a nice tradition.
Yeah, it gives the last place guys something to play with, to where we could have just sat there on the sidelines and I would have had the number 1, he would have had the number 2 because I was dead last. But now Wade beat me, so he gets the number 1 and I get the number 2. I think we'll continue. Does
it not feel like we've waited more than a year for fantasy football?
Yeah, because I was out of it at like Thanksgiving last year.
Yeah,
it feels like we've been literally out of it forever. Like it's just one of those things where I was below 500 and I was playing awful. Like I started off 3-0 and I just tanked. And then all of a sudden here I come back when the playoffs come around and stuck around for quite a while. So
yeah, you managed to make it to the championship. So minus, I don't know.
You hurt your draft stock.
Yeah,
I did. I really did.
Would have been picking number 2 or number 3 potentially. Justin Jefferson or somebody up there.
I was honestly thinking just about tanking. Like halfway through the season, I was.
But the cool thing about our league, having 8 teams is out of Tyler's guys that he's going to give everybody over the next couple of weeks. I mean, there's a good chance you could get one of his top 5 running backs and wide receivers on your team. Yeah. And if you don't, you're probably getting a guy like Josh Allen or Mahomes to lead your offense. So. Yeah. Or Travis Kelce, is
Kelce falls in the second round. Y'all are just stupid.
Yeah, really. I mean, you could argue he's a better wide receiver than, I don't know, potentially.
Honestly, if I would have to rank him in this wide receiver list, I would put him right up there with Jamar Chase.
I mean, he basically is the Chiefs' number 1 wide receiver, even though he plays tight end.
Unless they go and get somebody.
Do you think? Have you been hearing some rumblings of them
bringing in DeAndre
Hopkins? Deshaun Watson to the Chiefs.
That would be like the only way that I could see competition, but still, Travis Kelce's the man.
Right, and you mentioned DeAndre Hopkins. Let's get into those rumors. You got Chiefs, Patriots, and Titans all in contact with the wide receiver. Patriots and Titans have offers on the table to him, and Hopkins says he's in no rush. He's just chilling. He's enjoying life, probably hitting up the vacation spots, all the big parties.
All right, Antonio Brown.
Yeah, he likes where he's at. So I think if I'm DeAndre Hopkins,
they played together for a long time.
I'm signing with the Chiefs. I mean, are you kidding me? You could have Patrick Mahomes throwing you the ball, or Mac Jones and Tannehill? I mean, look, Neil's a Titans fan. He doesn't want
You don't
him
want
to
him.
end up on the Titans. So if I'm Hopkins, I'm signing with the Chiefs. Do y'all agree with me, or do you
Yeah,
guys
I
agree
agree.
elsewhere?
Neil's a
If
system
the offer's
guy.
on the table, yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I mean, obviously he wants the money, but
Wants a ring.
The
He's
Patriots
signing
is an
a
interesting
contract.
one because they're kind of making a push. They don't want to get left behind in the AFC East, but after all the noise the Jets made and Miami, and then Buffalo didn't make any noise, but they're the reigning champ. I wouldn't want to go there and potentially get fourth in my own division.
yeah, that's true. Other news, or I guess what we're going to start now is we're going to start breaking down each division. This week we've got the AFC South and the NFC South, keeping it in the Southern Hemisphere. AFC South teams.
Don't
You got
get
the
to
Houston
Big Ten, don't worry,
Texans.
Jacob.
You got the Houston Texans, the Indianapolis Colts, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Tennessee Titans. So let's start with them. Who's your pick to win the AFC South, Jacob? You're shaking your head. You don't like the AFC South.
My pick to win the AFC
Oh,
South,
God.
believe it or not, folks, is the Jacksonville
Hey,
Jaguars.
I think it's a good pick. I like the
No,
pick.
I think that they have completely reinvented what it means to play in Jacksonville. I just think that Trevor Lawrence has learned a lot. They have a veteran coach in Coach Peterson. I think that they really, I think they really have an opportunity to be the team that leads the AFC South for quite a long time. They have good running back, activity. They have good wide receivers, young wide receivers, some vets. They have everything. In something in that division that nobody else has is defense. And Jacksonville, I think, by far has the best defense in the AFC South.
Okay. Like it. Tyler, who's your pick?
Yeah, this is pretty easy. I don't think that the division's not going to be much of a race. It's going to probably be over by like week 9 or week 10. This is going to be a runaway for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and this offense is going to get better. They're getting Calvin Ridley back, and this guy was an absolute beast whenever he was on the Atlanta Falcons before he was betting on football. So he's going to be back. Trevor Lawrence, he's going to be one of the top quarterbacks. I think that he's going to have, last year we really good. This year, I think he's going to take it to the next level. And Jacob hinted at it. It's a young, talented defense. They showed it on their way to the playoffs. So not really much to say about it. Jaguars are going to win this division pretty handily.
Okay, Wade, pick somebody, but it can't be the Jaguars.
All right. Well, I think the Titans have the best chance to take down the Jaguars. I think that they'll probably split their season series. Ultimately, Jacksonville will take it, but I think the Titans are being slept on just a little bit. I think their defense was good enough last year to hang in there against the Bengals and the Chiefs. But
Neil says it right here. Defense one of the top in the league.
So, yeah, I think they have the seniority to hang in there, but ultimately, if Jacksonville clicks, they should take this.
The only thing with Neil there, I to Neil's comment, the only thing is Neil, they might have a top defense, but they have to be able to score the football. And if they can't score the football, they can't win games, which they struggle to do.
Neil, let me know who you want to start at quarterback.
Yeah,
Will Levis
is going to have a full flip.
It's going to be Tannehill this year.
For them to even have a remote chance to compete in this division.
All right, well, the other two teams we didn't talk about were the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts. Out of those two teams, who do you see having a better season? They both have brand new quarterbacks with C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson. Of course, Indianapolis has a phenomenal running back, where the Texans had a guy in Dameon Pierce who looked really good last year in his rookie season, but he had an injury to end that season. Let me ask you, Tyler, who do you like better, the Texans or the Colts?
I like the Texans. I definitely like their 2 draft picks that they added. C.J. Stroud. I don't know if C.J. Stroud's ultimately going to be the starter in the first couple of weeks. I think it's going to be the Davis Mills show to open up the season. Then it's going to be a quick transition to C.J. Stroud. I think it's going to be the complete opposite of Indianapolis. So I think that they're all in on Anthony Richardson in the top 5 and, spend all that capital on, trading up for him. I think that Anthony Richardson's going to be their guy. Matt Ryan is no longer with them. And, Carson Wentz there. So they're just done with the quarterback carousel. They just want a guy that's going to be with them consistently. Their defense, though, they definitely have a lot of key holes on them. Their offense, outside Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman, they're just not an offense that really scares you. I think that Houston's offense, though, they are one of the, the sneaky offenses are slowly building around. So, Brandon Cooks is now on the Dallas Cowboys, so Nico Collins is going to be their wide receiver one. They have Dalton Schultz. He was, one of the most consistent tight ends, Dak Prescott in Dallas. And like you talked about, Damian Pierce. He had a season with them. I think that he's going to take full force to that position. And then you also have like Will and Yavingly, who's one of the best cornerbacks. So I think that Houston's ultimately going to be the third place team, and Indianapolis is probably going to be vying once again for the number one pick. I don't think they're going to be that good.
Okay, interesting take there. Maybe they give up on Richardson halfway through the season. Let's shift gears, though. I guess I can give you my pick. I want to say Jacksonville, but I'll be different. I'll go hometown Houston Texans. CJ Stroud lead him to the top of the AFC South.
You want to place the bet now?
It happens. I mean, we've seen the AFC first to worst scenario a couple times, and if there is a wide open division, this is one of them.
Yeah. Worst to first.
That's what he means. Let's shift gears. NFC South, a division that the four of us are very familiar with Wade being the hometown Carolina Panthers fan, and then the three of us being the New Orleans Saints, and of course we have the Atlanta Falcons and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tyler, you mentioned QB carousel. This is a QB carousel division. 4 completely new QBs. You got. Why did I just blank on his name? Mr. Bryce, that's up in Carolina. I can't remember his last name. So,
Bryce Young.
Yes, Bryce Young in Carolina, Desmond Ridder in Atlanta. It's the Florida cat. What's his name for Tampa Bay now? Who's
Baker's there? You're looking like.
Do you think Baker's going to be the starter?
Yep. There's no way that Kyle Trask is going to be the starting quarterback.
I think Baker has a decent year, enough to keep him getting paychecks.
No, they won't. So they're going to be buying number one pick, and they're going to be picking Caleb Williams next year.
Maybe.
Okay.
Their plans
are Derek Carr, the New Orleans.
They're kind of like the Titans. The defense is good enough to win them some games.
Yeah, they just got to stay healthy.
That's I think the key ingredient to everybody. So, out of the 4, Jacob, who's your pick to win the division?
My pick to win the division is the Carolina Panthers.
Oh, I knew he was going spicy. I saw the look on his face
and the
twinkle in his eye.
And the reason why it's not Bryce Young, and I think it's because the Panthers kind of figured it out late in the season last year. Because honestly, I mean, the NFC South was so atrocious last year that nobody should have watched a game of football in the NFC South. I think that Carolina is ultimately a team I think that can win 9 or 10 games and win the division. I definitely think it's going to be a struggle. Teams are going to split. It's honestly going to be what we've seen the last few years. Bryce Young brings a lot to the table offensively, obviously. Defensively, Carolina's gotten really good. They've got a young core, and I really think that they can develop them into a really dominant defense in the NFC in the future. Their secondary is very underrated. They're also really young. So I think that they ultimately can win the division. Best second place team right behind them is probably New Orleans. I think the Saints are probably the second if they can drum up some offense this year.
That's a big question.
That's a big if. So, it's kind of how is it going to be with Derek Carr taking the reins? The world may never know. So I don't know, but it's I'm just being realistic.
Jack says boo. He doesn't like it, Jacob. He says who that?
I don't know. I'm not a Saints fan, so I can't I don't know.
Well, yeah, you're a Patriots fan. I guess your opinion doesn't matter. Tyler, who are you picking to take the NFC South?
Yeah, I think that this is going to definitely be an interesting division to watch. Like you mentioned, the different quarterbacks in this division. I do think that Bryce Young in his first year is going to be the story to watch. How he goes from going to a system like Alabama to Carolina, they have added Miles Sanders, who I'm sure that, Jacob remembers and loves. But I just think
Not
that
fantasy-wise, but
yeah, well, yeah. The question mark, though, is going to be at the wide receiver position. There's no longer DJ Moore, so it's going to be Terrace Marshall and DJ Chark. I think that those are going to be the two wide receivers to watch. I do think that they have one of the best defenses in this division. Tampa Bay, like you mentioned, the offense, that's going to be a huge question mark. You don't have, the GOAT of the sport of Tom Brady going to Baker Mayfield,
right.
Who has had his bright moments, but more than not, it's been more negative. So, and then you have the Atlanta Falcons with their young talent. We'll see, if Desmond Ridder can take it to the next level so this team, can make it back to the playoffs. They added a guy like Bijan Robinson, who's one of the elite running backs in his draft class. Drake London, he had some injuries. So, Kyle Pitts, can he finally show up and, be a big threat in the red zone? I think that their defense does have some young talent, but it's just a step away. I think it's just the Saints. I think that the Saints just have the best roster, out of all these divisions. Derek Carr isn't no Drew Brees, but I definitely think it's a step up, from Andy Dalton, what they had last year. It's been some injury concerns with Jameis Winston. And I think that the wide receivers, you're hopefully expecting that Michael Thomas, will get a full season out of him, but you just never know. But I don't even think it matters. I think that Chris Olave is going to be their wide receiver one this season. Rashid Shaheed has also been a huge threat. And then you add guys like Foster Moreau in the offseason period with Jawan Johnson. I think that this offense has all the talent. And Alvin Kamara suspended. You have a guy like Jamal Williams and Keandre Miller. And then your defense, is one of the best defenses still. You added Brian Brzee to the draft. So I do think that this will be a close division. I have Atlanta finishing second. I just think that they have the talent on both sides of the ball to compete. I do think that there will be some splits between the four teams. But I think that New Orleans will win this division. I'll say that they win it at 11-6.
I like it. I think New Orleans takes the cake. Honestly. Bold prediction.
Yes, Jacob, would you like to, we haven't been here in a while. Would you like to start up a debate?
11?
11 wins for the Saints.
11 wins is going to win the division.
It's one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. So I think that
would shock me. 11 wins by anybody in the NFC South.
Jacob's the NFC South hater. Once we get up to your New England Patriots,
I couldn't watch a single game of NFC
South.
We'll
bury the Patriots.
God almighty, it was
awful. You can't do that in the South.
Hopefully,
God, it was terrible. I couldn't watch any football because that's all that's on in the South.
Hopefully, this season will be better. Wade, are you picking your hometown Panthers or are you your honorary Saints fan? Who are you going with?
Come on.
I'm going to go with neither one.
Oh, God, he's picking Tampa Bay.
The Bucks.
No, I'm picking Atlanta.
Okay. Desmond Ridder, leading to the promised land.
I think Atlanta's got the next young core. I think Desmond Ridder can kind of be the hiccup in this prediction, and I might look like a total idiot for it, but I think they have a running back that they can put 100% of their load on. And if they want to spread it around, they have Cordell Patterson still coming back and Tyler Algiers. You got to think that Arthur Smith was the coach for the Tennessee Titans when they gave Derrick Henry the ball 300 times a game a season, two years in a row. So they're going to be run heavy. So kind of takes Ridder out of it. And then when he does throw, he does have some talent with Drake London and Kyle Pitts. So I don't know. I think it's going to be close. I don't see it being an 11-win team. I think that the Falcons take the division at 9-8 with probably a late win over the Saints in Atlanta to edge them out. This will definitely be a one team gets in the playoff kind of deal, I think, from this division. So
my pick is going to be the New Orleans Saints because I think quarterback-wise, they're probably set up the best with Derek Carr having the most experience. The only other one you could argue would be Baker Mayfield. And I don't know. He's been so up and down lately. I don't know how much you can trust him, especially I feel like it's going to be a down season for the Bucks after losing Tom Brady. So fan pick, I'm going the Saints. Who dat, baby? Get them back in the playoffs. Before we jump to our SEC preview really quickly, let's get to who got that dog in him. Who got that dog in him? This week, there are not a whole lot of people to choose from. I'm going to start because y'all are going to steal mine. We're going to Ellie De La Cruz. He has his dog in him every week. So there you go. Tyler, who you got?
Oh yeah, I'm going with his teammate Jotto. So we'll see what probably yours, since everybody loves about Ellie De La Cruz. Everybody loves to forget about Joey Votto. He had an absolute electric 7 days, hitting 429, 4 home runs, and 10 ribbies. So he's getting up. He's getting to the end of his career, but it's definitely been a sensational career for Votto. Most people don't really like him, but I love him. I love the MLB The Show. I hit a nuke with him a couple of days ago, and he hit nukes in real life. So I'm going to go, who got that dog in him?
Okay. Wade, who you got? Who got that dog?
All right, we'll stick with baseball. I'm going to go with Blake Snell of the Padres. He had a really rough start to the season, but since since Memorial Day, he has thrown 36 innings, has 4 wins, has let up 4 earned runs in that time period, and has struck out 63 batters. So that's what I call turning it around. That's about 2 strikeouts an inning, 4 runs scattered over that period, ERA under 1. So he's definitely got that dog in him right now. Snellzilla.
I like it.
Let's tee it up. We'll go to the links. Today, Sepp Straka fires off a 62. So close to a 59. He set up for a 59 on the 54th hole or the 72nd hole. I'm sorry, 72nd hole of the tournament, and ends up hitting a double. So I think
hits it in the water.
Ends up with a double, and he was I think it was 11 under through 14 holes, which was incredible. So I think that he definitely is that guy who got that dog in him at least through 71 holes. I mean, so yeah.
And what's crazy is you see guys that go for a 59 watch. They're usually not the dudes leading the tournament. They're just the guys out there playing free on Sunday. They got no chance to win it. He didn't start in the lead for the day. And he goes out and he shoots 9 under to win the John Deere Classic at 21 under. Second place was 2 under, or not 2 under. Sorry, that would have been crazy. Second place was 19 under, so 2 shots behind. But that's our dog of the week. We'll throw it up on Twitter, and you all can let us know who you pick. So let's go. I mentioned the SEC previews. Don't worry, Futch. We're gonna have your Big Ten previews coming on. We'll do it next week.
Hey, look. You might have to check your temperature, but I'm excited for the SEC preview.
Oh, okay. The Big Ten
marinated him enough down here in the South.
Yes. So SEC.
Put some Tony Sacheries on.
Yeah, he's like a good gumbo.
Yeah, there you go. Better with time. Of course, Georgia was the runaway last year.
That's fine wine, sir. But
gumbo works good at leftovers as well.
I wouldn't want gumbo that is aged. I'm sorry.
Okay, as long as the crock pot's on, it's good.
Throughout the day, you let it cook, is what I was saying.
Okay, as long as we're in the same day.
Georgia, of course, was wins the national championship last year, went undefeated in conference play, and they're a lot of people's favorite this year. But I'm not buying it. New quarterback, a lot of guys are gone. Of course, I think everybody that listens to the show is familiar with who's in what division. But since it's the last year for the divisions, I'll read them off to you. The SEC West, you got Alabama, LSU, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Arkansas, Auburn, Texas A&M, and that is in somehow Alabama finished ahead of LSU last year, according to Google, which is not true because LSU went to the conference championship, but they did have a better overall record.
That's right, Google.
Yeah, come on, Google. So let's talk about it. Who is our prediction to win the SEC West this year? Futch, you start.
Oh, no. No.
Okay, never mind. Futch, you can do the SEC East.
Yeah.
Wade, you're decked out in LSU gear. Is that who you're taking to win the SEC West?
I am. I'm going to take LSU confidently. I think that this is the first season where we've come into the year and we don't know who the favorite is. And I think that you can not definitively tell me Alabama's better than LSU. So I'm going to give them the nod. But I think we all know it's going to be whoever wins that game, unless Texas A&M finally shows up, which I don't see happening.
Well, you got a guy, Connor Wigman, who's going to be your starter as a sophomore. I mean, yeah, he balled out in the last game of the season, but that was the last game of the season. Someone that I would keep my eye on is KJ Jefferson down there in Arkansas. I think that's a dark horse to make a run for the SEC West title if they can play a full
Done with
season.
them. I'm
He'll
done
have a
with
good
them.
year, but I just don't see
I'm done
him.
with Arkansas's hype. I've tried to hype this team up for like 2 straight years, and it's let me down. They like start off like hot, and then
That's what I'm saying.
New York Mets of football.
You ready for this?
All
You
right,
ready for
Fletch,
this?
what
I've
you
been
got?
sniffing some vacation air. So I think I'm going to go with a team as my dark
Oh,
horse
geez.
in the SEC West is South Carolina.
Well, South Carolina's in the East, so wait
Oh,
for
well,
that one.
Kill me.
Oh,
Pick him in the East.
You shot your
Pick 'em in the
shot,
East.
and it failed.
He's ready for 2024, guys. For the
Exactly.
reform.
Yeah, I am.
Visions won't
Yeah.
matter.
Thank God.
I mean, all jokes aside, my pick to win the SEC West is LSU. I think just from a quarterback standpoint,
I mean,
they
even
have the
last year
best
you
in the
picked them.
West. I know. I was all aboard the LSU train. Y'all called me stupid with it being BK's first year. Boom, they did it. I mean, it's a homer pick, but outside of LSU, my dark horse would be Arkansas if they string together a full season and don't lose against A&M and then fall apart like they did last year. And the injuries don't help either. So, Tyler, who's your pick for the West?
Yeah, I think the SEC West, there's a lot of question marks with a lot of teams, specifically Alabama, who's going to be their starting quarterback. Have a lot of key pieces on both sides of the ball. Nick Saban's always going to reload, but, replacing a talent like Bryce Young is definitely going to be crucial for them. Auburn, with their new head coach, I think that they're going to be a couple of years away from getting back on the top of the SEC. Same with Mississippi. The circumstances that they had to go through last year, just don't know how that team,
tough.
their makeup is going to be. Ole Miss, still has some talent. They have one of the best quarterback rooms in the SEC. Spencer Sanders, Jackson Dart, Walker Howard. Those are your top 3 guys. I still think that Jackson Dart will get the keys to the offense in that one. I just think that Spencer Sanders going there was just a real, question mark for me. I thought that he on somewhere else where he could have stepped in as a QB1. But in the end, like you, and also Arkansas, like I mentioned, they have the talent, but I just feel like this team just lets me down every year when I try to hype them up on SEC talk. So I'm done with them. So I'm going to go with LSU. I think that, they're set up to win the SEC West. They did it. What a shocking pick that I'm picking LSU. What a surprise. So I'm going to go with LSU. I think that their defense, the cornerback situation, once again, is going to be a big question mark. Their defensive line, no more BJ Archulari, no Ali Gay. So that's going to be 2 huge guys. But this offense is going to be the best offense in the SEC. Pretty much everybody's coming back. Jaden Daniels is going to be a Heisman Trophy winner, possibly a winner. I think that he's going to elevate his status. He's going to be a first-round draft pick next year. And I'm going to go all in. I'm going to think that LSU wins SEC West. And it's going to come down to the LSU-Bama game once again.
I like it. I'm not writing off Nick Saban and Alabama to any regard.
Oh, they could easily win it all.
Yeah, you can't
I'm
write.
not saying they're going to go
off.
like 6-6.
Yeah,
They
but
just don't have the quarterback
Wouldn't
play to
that be
me
something?
to confidently pick.
I would love it if they went 6-6.
I don't think they've gone like 6-6. Like I don't think
I don't think
the last
they've had a
time they
losing
did.
season.
2005.
Have they had a losing
Definitely
season
before
since
Nick
he's been the head
Saban.
coach? Have they had a losing season since Saban's been the head coach?
No.
I know in their
his
first
first
season
year.
they lost to ULM, but I still think they had a winning season.
Yeah.
I think
the quarterback is a big question mark for them. But I mean, they got guys. They got 5 stars coming in every year. I'm sure old Nicky Nick's going to have them figured out, ready to play. So
we've seen him win with like Jacob Coker. So I mean, quarterback doesn't matter.
SEC East, Futch, since you were so happy to get started with South Carolina, tell us why South Carolina is going to win the SEC East.
You like Spencer Rattler?
Spencer.
I just think I think number one, weirdly enough, I think they'll probably have the best defense in the SEC East this year. A little surprising, but I think they ultimately momentum from previous, from last season, I think will play a big part in South Carolina's season. I think the moment we know that they're going to be a team that could be dangerous towards the end of the season is if they beat Clemson. I think that can happen. I don't think that's a far-fetched thought.
Not really.
I think that South Carolina is definitely my pick, my dark horse pick. I think that the team that is probably the most obvious team that would win it would be Georgia, and of course behind them would be Tennessee. But I don't see how Tennessee really is going to draw up that much offense. You've lost a lot of key pieces with them. Will they get good recruits? Sure, but when you lose a lot of guys, it really becomes a process of finding multiple recruiting classes in a row, and I just don't think Tennessee has done that, and that's why I think the division has gotten really weak.
Okay. I mean, it's really anybody's game or anybody's shot below, like you said, below Georgia or Tennessee. Tennessee loses their guy, the Hendon Hooker, and then Georgia. I'm not buying the hype. I mean, yeah, they won 2 championships back to back, but once again, who's your quarterback, right? You lose a lot of dudes to the draft. I said it in Bite Bengal Bites. I thought Spencer Rattler was going to have an All American season. I think he's going to really jump up in his draft stock this season. So Futch, I like your South Carolina pick, and I'm kind of rolling with the Gamecocks to win the East. Dark horse Vanderbilt. I mean, you got to watch out for it. Not Vanderbilt.
Why don't you just call South Carolina your dark horse? That's already a dark horse enough.
Yeah. So, but I'm interested to see what Billy Napier does in Florida in his second year. Isn't looking great for him. I'm glad LSU didn't hire him. I'm glad we went with Brian Kelly. But I mean, your top 2 in everybody's mind is like Georgia, Tennessee. But I mean, we'll see if Tennessee is ready to play with it's what's his first name? It's Milton as their quarterback. Joe Milton. I mean, he had a great Manning passing academy performance, but anybody can look good in camp. We'll just see if he translates onto the field. Tyler, what do you know about the East?
Yeah, I think that the East is going to be more top heavy. You know, the teams at the bottom are probably going to be the same that you saw in 2022 with Florida, Missouri, and Vanderbilt. I do think that Vanderbilt does get enough wins to become bowl eligible. I think that they're, riding in the right direction. I think that Clark Lee is definitely the right guy for them. Florida, like you mentioned with Billy Napier, I just think, with Graham Mertz being there, I mean, I just have any faith in him this season. Their defense had a lot of issues last season, even with the talent that they had, their defensive front. So I honestly think that Billy Napier is going to be out of Gainesville after this season. It's going to be a very pretty season down there in Gainesville. They have a rough schedule. They have Florida State to end off the season, and Florida State is probably going to still be in the ACC title race, potentially in the national title race too. So I think that Kentucky with Devin Leary is definitely going to be an interesting story. Kentucky is always one of those teams that start off hot, but whenever they get to the meat of their schedule, then they just fall flat. So it's interesting to keep an eye on Kentucky. And with Tennessee, Joe Milton, South Carolina, and Spencer Rattler, their story is nice and all, but at Georgia. Have you looked at their schedule? I mean, this is one of the easiest schedules in college football I've ever seen.
That is true. You don't need a quarterback to win those.
It's very weak. They're in conference. They get most, their home games. They get South Carolina at home. You think that South Carolina and Spencer Rattler are going to come to that stadium, beat them? Heck no. So Georgia's going to go 12-0 once again. I'm not going to be one of those guys. Georgia's claiming, you thought we were going to go 6-6, 5-7. Nope. I think you go 12-0. So don't write about me, Georgia.
All right. Tyler is keeping the receipts, and he's picking Georgia. Wade, who you got? You go with me and Jacob going with your Gamecocks?
No, I'm glad y'all took the fall. So I'm going to take Georgia as well in this one. I think we're setting up for maybe another Georgia versus LSU for the SEC championship.
I like it. So you mentioned that's your pick, Georgia LSU. I'm going. I know I took South Carolina. I'll stick with it. South Carolina versus LSU in the SEC championship. Tyler, who you got?
I got Georgia versus LSU in the SEC championship.
All right, rounding out Mr. Futch. It can't be South Carolina versus South Carolina. Who you got in the SEC championship?
I'm rolling with you, Chet. I'm going LSU, South Carolina.
Okay, so
there's all right. See you in Atlanta.
Hey, if All right, we'll lay this out right now. South Carolina, LSU. The four of us are going to Atlanta. We're going to watch that game.
Absolutely.
100%.
What is that in December?
I think you're going to be in Jamaica, but we'll come.
No.
We'll come kidnap you.
It's the first week of December. First weekend
Yeah.
of December. So
Yep.
I'll make it work. I'll figure it out. It might be an expensive December.
You can just
for me.
do an extended layover in Atlanta.
Yeah, there you go. I'm actually flying through Charlotte, but maybe I'll change the flight.
That makes no sense, but all right.
I'll explain after the show what's happening. So that's our SEC preview for this season. Like I said beforehand, we're going to go through each conference. Futch, if you can guarantee you'll be on next weekend, we'll do the Big Ten. We're not doing the Big Ten without you, but we'll make sure you're on to preview the Big Ten.
Cool.
We're running
Big
out of
Ten,
time.
AFC North, NFC North. Yeah.
There you go. I don't know if I guess we'll just do the Power Five. I think it's probably the best way to do it because I don't know anything about the WAC in the Mountain West.
We'll just do our best
Get
for the 5
educated
teams
with college football coast to coast. Come on.
Come on.
Boom. There's the perfect
No, we
plug.
haven't been on since March, but still.
College football, coast to coast, and of course SEC talk. I think both of them will make their return during football season. Is what it sounds like. So you can catch them over on our YouTube channel. And to round out the show, we got a NASCAR Neil update, live race update is what he's been sending me, and I've got buckle in, boys, because I've got one. So
All right.
this week's race in Atlanta started with Richard Childress leading the pace laps in Kevin Harvick's 29 car, which won his first race here in 2001. So it's a little old. After taking over for Dale Sr. as a fitting send-off for Harvick, who is racing here for the last time. That race in 2001 was just his third start, as well as what regarded by most as the first healing moment during the season. So Bell, who started at the rear, worked his way up to 6th in stage 1, which was won by Ryan Blaney. And these last 5 laps of stage were wild and full of battles, going from single file to 2 and 3 wide as they fought for stage points. There was a major wreck by Kyle Larson on lap 93 in turn 4, caused by Eric Jones, who gave him a bad push. Bad Mr. Eric. While trying to put on the next lap, his right front blows, causing significant damage to his car. That sucks. The track as a whole is already starting to show major wear in stage 2, which is making for great racing as cars are naturally getting loose, and the race is still going on due to a later start time with the weather. So he says he'll send more updates as they happen. Let's see. We got a few more coming through. There's a caution on lap 123, which may prevent them reaching lap 130 before the rain starts. Which will cause more problems as it continues on. 7 gets loose, collecting the 1, and 54 who are trying to get back in. We got some giant multi-lap battles between Cindric and Brad K, with both having teammates behind pushing. A little shake and bake action going there. Brad's in the lead back with Truex up front after being in an early wreck as well. Race is full on amazing. I think it's Neil's favorite one of the year so far. There's a wreck with 6 laps to go in the stage. It looks like we'll be under caution to finish this stage out. Brad K was in the lead when it came out, and Hamlin and Bowman were involved in that wreck. So we'll see how that wraps up. You'll have to follow NASCAR Neil on Twitter because he will tweet out the winner. I didn't talk to him about that, but now Neil, it's on you. You got to tweet out the winner of the race.
He can get the instructions here.
So there you go. Neil, we appreciate it as always, sending in those updates. And I think that pretty much wraps up the show. A little longer this week since we had our fourth co-chair, Jacob, come back on, had to get his takes. So
and the NFC South SEC preview, that's all of our football investment right there. So
exactly. Of course, we had the live draft check-in. So that was always fun to get. I'm looking. The first round has not finished yet.
has Ty Floyd gotten picked?
No, Hurston Waldrop was picked by the Braves, the Florida pitcher. So
I like it.
He sucked, but I would have gone with Ty Floyd because that matchup was a lot better and Flint's towards Floyd. But it's still a good pitcher. So we appreciate everybody tuning in. Of course, we love doing the live shows and getting the comments. Jack, whoever you are, thanks for tuning in because you were commenting every step of the way. We appreciate it. Of course, NASCAR Neil as well. That's it, boys. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and we'll catch everyone next week.